Put that coffee down.
I'm not here to waste your time, okay? I certainly hope you're not here to waste mine. So I'm gonna keep this short.
Helen, we're both in sales. Let me tell you why I suck as a salesman.
Most valuable commodity I know of is information. Wouldn't you agree?
Coffee's for closers only.
Well, hello there, friend. Welcome back to the Behind Your Back podcast with me, Bradley Hartman, founder and CEO of the Behind Your Back Sales Company. Our mission is to help you sell more, faster, at higher margins, and have more fun doing it. As for this podcast, we talk about leadership, personal productivity, time management, and the craft of selling in the construction industry. Now, if you listened to our episode that came out Tuesday, you surely got some insights from Mr. Patrick Warren, Vice President at Daltile, and Miss Megan Biddle, President and CEO of RSI Kitchen and Bath, based in St. Louis. We recorded that episode live on site in North Scottsdale when I attended the national conference for FEI Group. Now, if you're not familiar with FEI Group, they're the nation's largest and finest network of interior and exterior finish contractors and interior finish showrooms. Now, if you are involved at all in flooring, roofing, or anything related to kitchen and bath, you not only need to know what FEI Group can do for you, you need to get involved. So go to feigroup.net for more information. Now, to provide a different angle on this sector, today you're going to hear from Dan Butterfield. He's the Vice President of Residential Sales at Daltile. And he is joined by Steve Chesin, CEO of Carpets and More, based in Las Vegas. These two as a pair were a trip. Not only were they really funny and fun to talk to, they're also really insightful, as you will hear. I do want to thank Daltile for not only making Dan Butterfield come here and talk to me at the event, they also sponsored the episode. Daltile is the country's leading manufacturer and distributor of ceramic tile, porcelain tile, and natural stone. Built on a tradition of outstanding design, quality, and service for 74 years, Daltile has set the standard for the tile industry. Daltile is committed to providing trustworthy floor, wall tile, and countertops, and I am proud to say this line, Daltile is proudly made in the USA. How about that? I'm glad we're still doing that. So who is Dan Butterfield? Dan Butterfield is the Vice President of Residential Sales at Daltile. He's been there for going on 9 years. Before that, he worked at Mohawk. And again, he just has so many connections, has so many insights to the industry in general. He earned his undergrad at UTEP, University of Texas at El Paso, and then earned his certificate in finance and accounting at SMU, Southern Methodist University, the Cox School of Business. As for Steve Chesin, in addition to being the CEO and president of Carpets and More, a company that he started and has been running for the last 18 years, Steve Chesin might just be the most interesting man in the world. Now, I don't want to give too much away, but he has some deep roots into the casino and gaming scene in Las Vegas, which is fascinating. I told him, the next time IBS is in Vegas, we're going to get together. We're going to go into a deep dive and share more of his story on the podcast because it was fascinating and hilarious. Just the little bit that I got, there's certainly more stories to tell. As for Carpets and More, they're the largest floor covering retailer on the West Coast, and they're really actively involved in the Homes for Our Troops philanthropic organization. It's with duty and honor that Carpets and More is actively involved with Homes for Our Troops that assists severely injured servicemen and servicewomen and their immediate families by raising donations of money, building materials, and professional labor to coordinate the process for their new homes. So again, thank you for Daltile for sponsoring this episode. Without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Mr. Dan Butterfield and Steve Chesin. So Mr. Steve Chesin, Dan Butterfield, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Thanks for having us.
You bet. There's lots of people here. You guys all know a ton of people. We do have a couple drinks in front of us, but there's probably a bunch of other things that you'd rather be doing. So I appreciate you guys making time here. I'm excited to talk to you. And I think I really want to start here, Steve, with what you had mentioned. You said your goal with Carpets and More in Vegas is to create a recession-proof business. With everything we've gone over for the past, 18, 20 months or so, What have you learned from that has reinforced your ability to do just that, or has maybe challenged it and say, hey, longer term vision is how we're going to get there?
Well, one is to be more important to all of our customer base and to offer them what they truly need and truly be a one-stop shop.
So Steve, go into that a little bit more. What have you had to change, or what did you have to invest in to do that, to be a one-stop shop? Maybe take us back from the other investments that you made in the business to do that, to be more valuable and more important to your existing customer base.
Well, initially we were a flooring contractor.
Okay.
And all we did was flooring. And then we got into the fabrication business of solid surface and countertops, and, offered it to our customers. And they says, well, why aren't you doing our cabinets? So then we went into the cabinet business and truly saw the vision of being a full finishing contractor and truly a one-stop shop for remodeling of kitchen and baths and interior finishes of a home.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Bradley, when I think about carpets and more, I hear diversification, right?
Right.
Diversification in many ways. He just told us about many of the categories in the remodeling, beautifying the home, but also within the segment base, right? So you've got retail, you've got builder, new construction, you've got kitchen and bath. And so, diversification would definitely be a good answer to your question, which is how do you become recession-proof?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Dan, because, we were primarily residential contract, which is new home construction, and then ventured into the commercial / multi-family business.
Okay.
And then really saw the vision of needing to be in retail and being able to offer all three segments. So when there was ups and downs in the new home construction business, there was multifamily and or commercial and retail business.
It's kind of funny. As part of our industry, there's a lot of hard work, but there's also a lot of hard play, right? We find time to pause. We'll find time this weekend to pause and have a good time. And it's kind of funny because I'll be with some of my counterparts and I'll see a picture of Steve Chesin and I'm like, oh, Steve was at your retail event. And it's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, he's over there at the commercial event. Yeah. And well, he's one of my best customers on the builder multifamily side. It's a testament to his adaptation and the success.
Thanks, Dan. And, that's really important to align yourself with key partners, key supply partners who are truly partners of yours that have the same interest as you do to create a win-win situation with our end customer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'm curious, Steve, as you think about the business, one of the risks potentially is the risk of line extension. We can do A, B, and C. Hey, we should do D. Hey, actually, we do A, B, C, and D pretty well now. Let's do E. And there's just been obviously a lot of storied companies that over the years have gone one too far, and they've continued to make larger investments and to double down and have found out belatedly that was a poor decision given whether it's the market environment or the product. Are there any sort of signals or anything that you're looking for to say, oh, okay, hey, we see these opportunities. We think we can be really good at these. What might be a sign that maybe we're getting too far out ahead of our skis or maybe venturing in an area where we're not going to be that strong?
Bradley, that's a great point because you really want to do one thing really well. Mm-hmm. And then you want to do two things really well.
Right.
And then you want to do three things really well. And that third thing doesn't go so well. Mm-hmm. And then you have to take a step back and figure out why it didn't go so well.
Yeah.
And do you go to 4? Do you go to 5? No, you got to figure out 3 first.
Yeah.
And really create an offering that's most important to your end user.
That really is a great question. I'm sitting here thinking about 26 years with Mohawk Industries, right? Carpet, pad, ceramic, laminate, wood, resilient, countertop. Now working for the Daltile SBU. And at some point in time, you would think, just to your question, how much is too much? But when you really look at it, and you're looking at a total home solution from Steve's perspective in his business, we start to listen and say, how can we be more important to you? And it's certainly a lot easier to grow with a customer with a wide band of product categories than go out
Absolutely.
and find new customers, right? Just
Yeah.
like Steve said, how do I be important to fewer? And, we've tried to take that same approach and really offer a wide band of items. We still are very specialized in the categories and the segments, but we're one umbrella. And the word that I love to use is program selling, right? So we like to approach our customers like Steve with a unified program that provides a solution for him, simplifies, gives him dependability, sustainability, and brand quality, material, relationships, right? And hopefully we're working in synergy to help you tell that story. Your success is our success.
Well, that's another great point, Dan, because relationships are the most important thing. And, when you're doing multiple products, you're building a relationship with your end user and building trust, just like you are with your supplier, just like you are with your supply partner, and makes the world go around.
Yeah. So let me ask, I'll tee this up. You guys can jump in here. For someone who's listening, who's saying, all right, I heard program selling. There's probably an inherent foundation in there that makes sense. Okay, program selling, we're putting together different parts and pieces. But for someone who says, we haven't really thought about this, or maybe we did a while ago, but we didn't think it was the right time, what might be some of these fundamentals of program selling? Maybe Dan, let's start from you from the manufacturer perspective. And then I'm curious, Steve, maybe you can dovetail. What does a program selling look like from your perspective as the customer to say, yeah, this makes it easier for me? I'd love to kind of dig into this a little bit.
That's a great question. Coming over to the Daltile SBU, one of my very first opportunities to sell a program, I was going over the ins and outs of it before presenting to the customer. And I was told, we don't sell that particular product at that price. It's too low. And I said, well, I don't sell product. I sell programs. And within a healthy program, I may need to give to receive, right? And really in the builder multifamily business, no surprise, right? No one's really making money on base grade product. We together are investing in all that we invest in: design centers, designers, people, with the hope and intent to upgrade, right? But at the end of the day, from my perspective of that question, if I'm being a good listener, I'm listening to Steve or Steve's people, and Steve says, look, I've got a challenge. I've got to be able to provide this, but here's what I can give in return.
Right.
Within a program, he's providing health, and my answer is yes.
Well, you also speak about the jewelry,
Yes.
the fluff, the things that make things really beautiful. On top of that really you get the buy-in from your customer.
What's the jewelry? What's the fluff? What does that mean?
It's the Listello. It's the glass tile.
Okay,
It's,
all right.
It's the beautiful things to put the sugar coating on your project.
I got you. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely right. And so best way that I can answer
Yeah.
your question is look upon opportunities holistically. There's no line item veto per se.
Yep.
If there is something greater, and you just have to have the vision and you have to have the communication to be able to share what is that ultimate opportunity, how can we help? And that's always our approach.
Well, you said two things there that I think I really want to emphasize. Number one is that line, I don't sell products. I love that. Like, we shouldn't. You're right. Steve, you mentioned we're selling solutions, right?
That's right.
Correct.
Individually, even one of the most unique things like a diamond in a certain perspective is a commodity, right?
Sure,
However, an entire solution that makes it easier to say, well, once I get a diamond, I'm going to need this and this and this. Yeah, that's
Right.
why it's all in there. But it also seems like you are, Dan, you're building in concessions, right? In a negotiation, there's going to be some things that I give and some things that I get, some things that I can't move on. You're already building in concessions that, yeah, we're going to lose money on this. That's fine. You know why? Because we're not only selling one product. So I think that's really important there. Yeah, I love that. So I appreciate you going into that a little bit more.
Absolutely.
One of the general themes, and we're going to kind of close our conversation here in a bit, talking about Dave Geeson. And he's someone that I have not met. I know both of you have spent a lot of time. So we're going to circle back there in a minute. But I want to plant that seed here only because really focused a lot on positivity and looking at, seems like any situation, saying, all right, what about this is good? We've been through some just crazy times, right? To get to this point where we're actually here together in person and it feels so good to do that again. I'm curious, and maybe Steve, I'll start with you and then over to Dan.
Sure.
As you look back over the last 24 months or so, What are the positive things that have come out of this that says, hey, maybe I would not have chosen for us to go down this path, but the fact that we did, there's some positive things that came out of this, whether it's solutions or opportunities or challenging, the old mindset, because this is the way we've always done it. Steve, what comes to mind as we think about the positivity of what we've been through?
So one is positivity.
What do you mean?
Creativity, looking at things differently than we've looked at them in the past, and finding those opportunities, those cracks in the doors to do things differently, to create better solutions, to open other people's eyes to thinking differently.
Yeah, as you say that, Steve, is there any sort of kind of tangible example where you say, I'm going to give an example. Our guy, Jerry, he works in here, and because of this is the crack in the door that I'm talking about that allowed us to do this. Does anything specific come to mind for our listeners?
So I'll give you one that I like.
Sure.
One is these people are building a hotel, and they want to do the elevator differently. And one of the warehouse guys says, well, why don't you put the elevator on the outside of the hotel? They never put elevators on the outside of the hotel. Then they put it in glass. I mean, things like they're doing it the old way.
Yeah.
They have to do it in a shaft. They have to do it inside the hotel. Just an example.
Yeah.
So many things come to mind. The word that pops into my head is innovation, being more innovative. But technology has certainly advanced in a short period of time. The design center experience has now been enhanced. It's never going to go away, but it's been enhanced with technology through visualization. Our pause to emphasize our North American-made story at Daltile, right? We've always tried to be everything to everyone. Meanwhile, with 11 North American factories, there was such a compelling story there that with all the disruption in supply chain and the uncertainties and costs and even right down to government closures of facilities, it was amazing how we have kind of rebirthed around this North American story. And now we're not necessarily everything to everyone, but what we do, we're going to be great at and help, again, partners like Carpets and More, Steve's team, have dependable, sustainable solutions so that they can run their business and not be looking over their shoulder.
Dan, that's a great point. And Daltile is big into workforce development and understanding as our labor force is aging and the younger generations are not learning trades. And quite honestly, we have to make the trade sexy again.
Yep.
And wanting the younger kids to get involved and not sit on the couch and just play video games.
That's right.
But to learn a trade that they'll have for the rest of their lives, to create things for their future families. And they'll have a trade that they'll have forever. And it's very difficult. We have to re-educate the younger generation.
Other ways we've listened are, and again, this is not a opportunity to promote a brand or anything, but truly, Clean Houses has taken a refresh look, right? So Microban, we've had accessibility to Microban to put in products for a cleaner home. So again, just
Maybe,
kind of a...
Could you go into that just a little bit?
Yeah, well,
I've heard
sure.
you guys mention it, but I'm assuming what it is. It helps minimize bacteria growth and things like that. But give us a 30-second overview.
Sure. As organizations, we're always looking to differentiate.
Right.
And again, the question kind of came through what good came out of not so good. And you kind of pause, and not just from a selling or a brand or a feature, but really people are pausing and looking at, how do I have a clean home? How do I make sure that my baby walking across the floor is safe, right? And so it's kind of curbed our vision as to what's important to our customer's customer, right? So that we can tell a story and provide solutions.
Well, that's great. And as far as innovation goes, Daltile came up with a RevoTile. And RevoTile is, in a retail solution, you don't have to tear up the existing flooring. You can go right over the top. And you get a beautiful porcelain tile, and you don't have to inconvenience your homeowner by destroying their home and tearing up their tile and creating all this dust. You can go right over the top, and it looks beautiful. I mean, that's innovation at its finest.
When he's excited, we get excited. And not to mention, he can get off the job quicker, which is a consumer benefit, because she wants to know, when are you getting out of my house?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I was recently up in Boston for another event, and a friend of mine was going to a window manufacturer and showroom, and they were leveraging a little bit of the VR, the virtual reality, and a little bit of the augmented reality. Where do you guys see that? Number one, is that something you guys are using now, or fast forward a couple of years, to what degree will VR or AR be part of how we do business?
It's interesting. The visualization that I referred to really is becoming more of a step to help the consumer pare down the decisions before going into the design center. So it's not going to take away from the design center experience. And what we're seeing is variable types of technology. And the gamer technology is the one that, from my chair, has had the most realism, right? Where you could literally say, here's a tile, here's your home, here's what that tile looks like in your home. She can go to mom virtually with an app or a picture and say, here's how I designed my house. What do you think? And then can go into a design center and say, wow, I know I've got to select 37 different finishes, but I do know now that I definitely want this color or this format size or this type of countertop. And it helps the whole process.
So you're saying you have a more educated buyer.
There you go.
When they come in,
Yep.
they already know almost what they want. And with visualization, they pick the paint color, they change the lighting, they change the cabinets, they went with stainless steel appliances, and they already know what they want.
Yeah.
And it makes the sale so much better.
And you can't build a design center to visually show all that, but the visualization is a great aid to bring all that together. And so, again, through the pandemic, we have seen exponential moves forward because there was a time that we didn't know when they were going to go back into a showroom or into a design center. Fortunately, they are, but that did perpetuate that technology for sure.
Yeah. Dan, so when you say they're using that to pare down their choices ahead of time, to me, that's somewhat non-obvious. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how that works?
So the average consumer doesn't buy that many homes in their lifetime. And especially right now, we have a lot of millennials and a lot of new first-time home buyers.
Right.
So when you say you're going to go pick your asphalt tile, you're going to pick your lighting, your appliances, your plumbing fixtures, your flooring, that's a lot, right?
Oh,
and so she didn't know when she was looking at the flooring section that one of the most popular styles might be a linear plank or a large format rectangle. So there's kind of an education / visualization going on.
I got you.
To say, by the way, you can have whatever you want in your house for a nominal fee. But if you really look at the trend, here's where it's going. And it kind of helps curb that decision making. She still may want to get into that design center and say, is this really what I want? And that's probably going to be more around the actual color. But when she sees that large format 12 by 24 or whatever it may be,
right,
she gets set on a few things that is taken out of that precious time with that designer. So
I have to add to that, Dan. And that's a great observation. But truly, our labor force is aging. And as I said earlier, we need to get more of the younger people into our trades that can install these products, that want to install these products, that build a career for the rest of their lives. And I'm very focused on workforce development.
So tell me this, Steve. You started the business when you were 18. There seems to me, there's got to be, by the way, I'm going to come to Vegas. We're going to hang out. I'm going to hear the story about your parents buying a casino, you starting a business at 18. There's a larger story here. We'll set that aside for now. But you, I'm assuming at some point, you saw the craft, you saw something, and how did you start? And is there any corollary to kind of sharing your story to, I know a couple of young kids who decided college wasn't for them, got in the craft, started doing it, and realized over the past year and a half, there was this boom, and they had enough skills to go in there and partner with a couple buddies, and they were 18, 19 years old, and have made an absolute killing and a great little entrepreneurial story, finishing bathrooms. And these are suburban, white kids. And they said, I never anticipated I'd do this, but I'm good at it. And the money's great. And I love pointing at that, saying that awesome bathroom that everyone's posting on Instagram, I did that. Love to hear just a little bit more of your story, how you got involved, and maybe what elements of that, are really relevant here.
So when I was younger, living in Minnesota, I started working for my dad's friend who owned a carpet store, sweeping his floors. And
Okay.
then I got the opportunity to go out with some carpet installers and help them move furniture, and started learning how to lay carpet. And then got the opportunity to move to Las Vegas when my parents chose to, when I was 17 years old, and thought, you know what, Vegas is a great place, and there's a lot of opportunity, and the doors open, and I started my own company.
Incredible.
So, Steve, we're going to dive in more of that later for sure. There's going to be a round 2 coming for you. But let me do this. I want to make sure we wrap up here. We talked about Dave Giesling. His passing, I think everyone would say, was probably too early. I know he made on a large number of people that are here that I've talked to in my short time have said, Hartman, you missed out. You never met him. You didn't get a chance. I'm wondering if we could close for other people that didn't meet him. Is there any sort of story? Is there any sort of leadership lesson? Or is there anything that really stands out that you can share with our audience that really reinforces who he was and what he meant as just a human being? Steve, let's start with you.
So, David is a very, very dear friend of mine, and he approached me before he started FEI and asked me to join the group, and shared some of his passion and his connection of what he wanted to create. And, I was sold from day one and learned a tremendous from David and loved him dearly. And he had an unbelievable family, but he was truly about making a difference in everybody's life that he ran into. He wanted to make it better and made a huge impact in my life. It was sad his life ended the way it did, but he's a legend in our industry and made a difference in my life and in many of the people's lives here.
I sat through the same presentation, and I don't know that any positive word wasn't used, so to say something that hasn't already been used, really unique story. And I will just first say, on the family man side, I got to participate in that. He had a daughter interested in martial arts. He didn't just network in business. He networked amongst friends. Called me and said, look, I know you've been in the martial arts for 12, 13 years. My daughter's interested. She's a sharpshooter, and she's interested in jiu-jitsu. And next thing I know, I'm on a hourly call every Sunday until,
I have so many questions here.
It just took flight. But one day, the positional ladder that I went over with her before she went to her first class, Dave sent me a picture of their bathroom mirror. And on the bathroom mirror, she had drawn the positional ladder that I taught her. And every morning as she got up and was preparing to go to school or to class or whatever she was doing, going out to shoot, she saw that on it. And so it just reiterated the impact, not only on all of us, but on the family. But one last quick story.
Sure.
I was working and I got a phone call. And I remember seeing a social media post on the non-business side that he had lost a loved one, Dave had. And I read it. It was really powerful. And then Dave called me. And I was like, hey, what's going on? He said, I just called to tell you I love you. And I was like, wow. I can't tell you how much I needed that today. He said, I just lost someone very special to me. And it was just one of those things that you didn't expect. And I just wanted to pause and say to you what I had hoped I had said to that person. And I'm going to call a lot of my friends today and just make sure they know that I love them. And those things set so deeply and change how when I see Steve Chesin, I hear my man, and we embrace and we love each other, right? I mean, this is a person that, it's just taught. A lot of us grew up and, I'm okay being vulnerable around people that I respect and love. And he was that way with us, and I want to pay it forward. I want to have those type of relationships. Great individual, and he leaves a legacy on many levels.
Well, when I hear that too, I think that what you just described, there's no one listening. There's no one in this room. There's no one in our industry who can't do that exact same thing.
Great point.
Mentally, emotionally, we have to run through. We have to create the time for it. But I hear that, and I'm like, I don't know. I almost feel like, gosh, what am I doing with my life?
Well,
right? He's
yeah.
modeling something that you could be so much more. You can make a bigger impact. And I know that's what you guys want to do for your families, for your
Sure.
teams and the industry. That's awesome. I think it's a great place to end. Again, I know you guys are busy. I know you guys come to this and so many people have walked by and stared and kind of tried to get your attention. You guys are wanted in other places. So Steve Chesin, Dan Butterfield, thank you so much for your time.
It's an honor to be together.
Thanks, Bradley. Appreciate you, man.
All right, then. What'd you think? I didn't overpromise, did I? Hope you enjoyed my conversation with Mr. Dan Butterfield of Daltile and Mr. Steve Chesin of Carpets and More. Big thank you for Daltile for sponsoring this episode, as well as the FEI Group. They're the nation's largest and finest network of interior and exterior finish contractors and interior finish showrooms. Now, our goal here is to make this the best podcast you listen to, so I'd love to hear your thoughts, ideas for future shows, potential guests, or any sales fundamentals issues that you and your team are struggling with. Feel free to email me directly at bradley@behindyourbacksales.com. You can link up with me on LinkedIn and connect on Instagram at BehindYourBackCEO, where I share photos of the conversations I had in North Scottsdale with all the guests over these last 2 episodes, Dan Butterfield, Steve Chesin, Megan Biddle, and Patrick Warren. If you did find this episode valuable, please share it with your network and leave a review. Those mean more to us than you know. We're going to close out like we always do. You, my friend, are owed nothing. Deliver value first.